Here with Matt Saliba, ABCA, NAIA Assistant Coach of the Year, but recruiting coordinator at Weber, also a JV head coach. So that's an interesting storyline we'll get into here. So thanks for jumping on with me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad to be here.
I mean, were you surprised by this? There's a lot of assistant coaches out there. Were you surprised?
Yeah, I was to be honest. I wasn't expecting it. I knew we had a good season and good year overall, but I wasn't expecting this at all. So it's definitely a great honor to get. So
First World Series appearance, correct?
yes, first one in school history.
And great tradition there, and it just shows how hard it is to get there at every level. College baseball, it's really hard to get to the World Series.
Yeah, absolutely. It's tough, and it's something we've been working on for a while now. I think when I came here as a player in 16, we made our first regional, and then we've been consistently making regionals over the last few years, and finally punched our ticket. So it was good to see.
Did you know coming into the year that you guys were going to be good? I mean, coming out of the fall, did you feel like you had a chance?
Yeah, I feel like we had a good chance. We had a great group of returning guys and brought in some new guys that I think were really going to help us. Some really talented players, and they all meshed really well together and just kind of carried it throughout the season. And they did a great job with it. So it was fun to see them do that.
High school guys or transfers out of your new players?
Predominantly transfers. Typically with our varsity roster, we don't get too many freshmen that come in and play on our varsity right away. So we got a lot of JUCO transfers and some 4-year guys that stepped in and did a good job.
It looks like it's pretty diverse. Right? I know mostly Florida kids, but there is some diversity on the roster. You got a kid from Puerto Rico. Looked like
Yeah.
some minorities, so it looks like good blend of diversity on the roster.
Yeah, absolutely. We get guys from all over. I mean, we've got some guys from Puerto Rico in the past, the DR, mostly Florida kids, but yeah, we get a good mix from all over.
Do you guys get the state lottery? Are you guys in with that with the tuition break for school?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Yep,
How
we
much does
do.
that
Yeah.
help?
It helps. It helps quite a bit. Yeah, yeah. It helps with all our Florida guys for sure.
Yeah,
So
those of us that worked at states that didn't have that, always jealous
yeah,
of the states that did have that. It makes a huge
yeah,
difference.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely, it does for sure.
And how many years have you been a recruiting coordinator?
Uh, this is this is my second year doing it. Last year was my first full year, just having control of it. I'd helped out with it in the past, but this was last year was my first full year doing it.
Anything eye opening with that? Having to
Uh,
take over for the first time?
yeah, it's a lot of responsibility. Our head coach Colin kind of gives me freedom to do it, and he trusts me, and I feel like I'm getting a good feel of what kind of players we need to sign in order to be good here, and I'm catching on to it. But it's definitely a lot of responsibility.
Have you leaned on any other coaches that are in that position out there on some tips?
I have, yeah. I've some guys that I've worked with here at Weber and some guys I've known in the past. And then I rely on Colin a lot for it, just because he's been doing it a while and has had a lot of success everywhere he's been. So if I have questions, it's nice to have him right there with me to help me out when I need it.
What have been his tips to you on recruiting?
Um, I mean, a few of the things we we look for in our guys is just making sure they're hardworking kids, they're good kids. Make sure they've had some level of success at wherever they've been. Typically, if they've had success at a Florida junior college for a couple of years, we feel confident about it, bringing them into here in our conference and our level that they're gonna have some same level of success, and hopefully we can get more out of them.
How are you balancing that in the fall? Because since you guys are transfer heavy with practice, but also being able to see everything that you need to see.
Yeah, yeah, it is transfer heavy. I mean, the fall is good for us. I mean, we take it slow early on so we can work with our guys and spend a lot of time with them. It's always sometimes you don't know what you're going to get when guys just transfer in or where they've been in the past. But we we spend a ton of time in the fall, and I mean, I think that gives us time to get to know them and get to work with them.
Have you guys started full team stuff yet?
Not yet. No, we start here in a couple weeks with full team practice. Right now, they're just coming in, lifting, conditioning, and just getting some work in on their own before we get going.
What is your lifting conditioning schedule for the week for those guys right now?
Right now, they're lifting 3 days a week, and doing some conditioning with our strength coach, and then they come in and do some team conditioning twice a week. Just we want to make sure they're in the best shape possible before we start team practice, and then going into the spring, we feel like them doing that all fall kind of prepares us to get through the spring and hopefully into the postseason and out to the World Series. If we're in the best shape we can, that we feel like that gives us the best chance for success.
Did you guys get through the spring with not a lot of injuries?
Yeah, we knock on wood. I mean, we've been fortunate to have very little injuries, especially on the mound. I think a big reason for that is all the strength and conditioning stuff that we do. I think it prepares our players to stay healthy, especially on those conference series. You got 18 innings on Saturday, and it helps them out a lot. Helps them stay healthy. So we had very little, no injuries. So.
What's the pitching lifting schedule for the spring? I mean, how do they balance that out for those guys? When are, like, say your starters on the mound, when are they lifting?
In the spring, it's a little bit dialed back. I mean, they lift twice a week in the spring, and it's just dialed back a little bit just because we're playing so much, and those guys are throwing a lot more than they are in the fall. So I'd say it's about twice a week, and they come in on a third day, just sign in and get something light in. But that's kind of how we do it in the spring.
So once you get through this first phase of fall ball, when will you guys start inter squad and once you start team practice?
We'll start probably the first week. I mean, we give them a program to when they go home for Christmas for about a month, especially the pitchers, so that way they're ready when they come back. Because when we start a lot earlier in Florida, so once we start team practice, we have about 3 weeks until our first game. So we get them moving pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's Florida. It's nice for you guys, and with NAI because you don't really have a common starting date, so you can get started when you need to.
Yeah, absolutely.
You find that helps you guys kind of keep guys in a good place on the mound because you can spread your games out a little bit more than some other places.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the way our schedule's set up, it helps our pitching for sure. Just because I mean, you're playing 3 on the weekend, you got 1 midweek, and we can kind of space it out to where we feel like it sets up good for us.
You know, coming off a World Series appearance, what has been your conversations with your new guys, the guys this year? Have you guys talked much about it, or are you just kind of doing what you did before?
We brought it up obviously to them. I mean, it was a big year for our program, but we also want to explain to them too that was last year, and it's even harder to go back and do it again and even make it further than we did. So they kind of know that it's a completely a new year, and it's great what we did last year, but we got to focus up and do whatever we can to get back there again this year.
So how are you balancing then the varsity stuff with then your JV responsibilities?
Yeah, so we have a lot of kids. I mean, we bring in probably 75 kids. So we've got a big JV roster, and we let our JV team get on the field the first week of school. So they're on the field practicing for the first 5 weeks or so while varsity's just lifting and conditioning, and then we kind of flip-flop them. That way there's not so many guys on the field, and they can both get their field time. So.
Do you have many guys that maybe start on JV that have an opportunity to jump up to varsity at some point?
Yeah, so we've had some guys that kind of surprised us. Actually, one of our guys, Dylan Martin, who was our Friday night guy on varsity last year, started out here as a JV player. It's like he came in throwing 79, 80 miles an hour and worked his tail off and ended up more like 85, 88 and threw 100 innings for us. So it happens. And we've had several guys that end up getting better after a year or two and move up. And that's why we have it too. We hope that some of our freshmen come in and develop and end up helping us.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, was it just maturity for him? I mean, did he come in with a frame that you could put some strength on? You know, what was his development path going from 79 to, what was his development path?
He stuck to our program that our pitching coaches had for him, and he spent a lot of time in the weight room over the summer. He put on 20 pounds, came back, and ended up his first year on varsity with us through about 30 innings, did well, and then came back the next year and got even better and ended up all his pitches developed. He got a lot stronger, was throwing the baseball harder, and he ended up helping us a ton, man. I mean, we relied on him big time. So it was cool. It was cool to see that because he's a great kid and works his tail off. So,
Yeah, those are the guys that you pull for.
yeah, absolutely.
You know, your path, you went to Daytona State coming out of high school. You know, was that your lone option, or did you look at some other places coming out of high school?
I looked at a few other places. I know I wanted to go to a Florida junior college. I know it's good baseball, and I meshed really well with Coach Tuma there at Daytona, and he showed the most interest in me. So I went there, and I loved it there. It's one of the best experience I've ever had. So it was good. I went there.
And then you finished up at Weber, right?
Yep, yep. I transferred to Valdosta State after Daytona, and then I left there after my junior year and came to Weber my last year.
And then you moved into student assistant position.
Yes.
You had a couple
right
classes.
after that.
You have classes left to finish up.
Yeah, I had some. I had about a semester and a half to finish. So I did that, and then stepped into the GA position, got my master's, and kind of moved up from there.
When did Brad approach you about being a student assistant?
Uh, right after the season was over with, sat down with him and Colin, and we talked about me getting into coaching. And at the time, it was the only thing that I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to stay involved with baseball, and they gave me the opportunity to do it, and I've been here since. So I'm grateful they let me stick around.
I mean, what did they see in you? Because not every player you coach, you're gonna be like, he should coach. That might be like 1% of the guys that you coach. You're like, that guy should be a coach. But what did they see in you that they felt like you were gonna be a good coach?
They told me a few things. I mean, I come from a baseball family. I mean, my dad has been coaching high school baseball in Florida for almost 40 years now, and I think just my IQ and the way I played the game, played it very smart, I feel like, and they felt like they could trust me coming back and working with our guys, and felt like I could help them.
How was it playing for your dad?
It was good. I loved it. It's obviously it's tough because coach's kid, you deal with all that stuff. But I enjoyed it. I learned a lot from him and take a lot from him. So it was fun.
Yeah, it seems like the high school guys, maybe not that playing, because I played for my dad in college, but it seems like the high school experience maybe a little better for guys because they're a little bit younger than the college piece of it.
Yeah, absolutely. But
you guys got hot at the end of the year. This past season, you guys kind of caught fire there at the end.
Yeah, we hit a point in our season about midway through where we dropped some series that we felt like we shouldn't have, and we knew we had to win down the stretch to give us a shot to get into a regional. And we did that. We got hot. We won some big series down the stretch. Probably the one against St. Thomas and Warner, both those helped us a ton.
You guys' conference schedule is really good.
Yeah, it's tough. It's definitely the best NAIA conference in the country. It's hard to argue that. So
those are dog fights.
Yeah, absolutely. Every weekend.
Do you feel like that helped you guys maybe having a little bit of pressure on you at the end of the year that you knew you had to play well to give yourself an opportunity?
Yeah, I think it helped us. We knew we were capable of beating anybody, and also, I mean, you can lose to anybody too. We knew that going into those series that our guys just felt like, we got to do it. So they stepped in, were confident, and did what we needed to do to give us a shot. So.
And going back to, for people who don't know, Brad Neathhammer was the coach at Weber forever. Was the only coach there, started the program at Weber when he got there, started the program, is now the athletic director. He's done a lot with the ABCA. He's on the ABCA NAI committee and still does a lot. But how gratifying is it for Brad, even though he's not coaching, like how gratifying was it for Brad this year for you guys to make the World Series?
Oh, I think he was really excited. I mean, I could see it all over his face when we were down there at St. Thomas, and he couldn't be more excited. I think he's really proud of it. So, and he started this, and all the hard work he's put into this program. I'm glad we were able to do it for him too.
Well, and you guys are fortunate. We don't have very many athletic directors that coached also. So like
Yeah,
he's a dinosaur now in a good way that
yeah,
coached forever. So he knows exactly what you guys are going through on a daily basis having to coach your players.
yeah,
Those got to
yeah,
be easier
absolutely.
conversations. Like if you're having, issues with your guys or whatever, or even if you're scuffling a little bit, got to be much easier conversations with him.
Yeah, definitely. He's been through it for so long, so he understands and gets everything. So it's great having him around and having his support with everything.
Once you guys finished, did you have to get right back into recruiting?
Yeah. I mean, it never really stops for us. I mean, we're doing it throughout the spring and when everything's crazy, and definitely throughout the summer is when it gets really busy. But yeah, as soon as we were done, we were trying to find some guys to fill in for the guys we were losing, and it keeps going all the way around. So
So how many guys did you end up getting this summer that are on campus right now?
we signed 11 new varsity transfers. We didn't lose much offensively. We had to replace a couple big bats for us. One of our guys, Kenny Rodriguez, who was a huge had a lot of offensive production for us, which he's tough to replace. But and some guys on the mound, and we felt like we brought in some good guys that we like.
I like with your spring roster, it looked like you guys were balanced. It wasn't like one thing over the other. It looked like it was pretty solid offensively, pretty solid on the mound, and pretty solid defensively.
Yeah, yeah, we want to be very well rounded. And yeah, I agree. We nothing stood out crazy, but we did a lot of things very well. And we that's how we want our roster to be, how we want the production to be. And our guys did a good job.
From a development standpoint, since you are, you're still fairly young in your coaching career, is there some new stuff that's out there right now that you're using just because you are a new coach?
Uh, yeah, I mean, I try to pick up on new things that I come across. And Colin helps me a lot with that. I mean, he's got a very good old school mind of hitting too, but also he knows all the new stuff as well, and I pick a lot up from him. And yeah, there's so many things out there. It's hard to not see, and I try and pick and choose different things that I feel like will help our guys, and there's a lot out there that I feel like doesn't. So try to just pick up on new things as they come.
When you say old school, because that term old school, new school
Yeah,
gets bounced around a lot, especially on Twitter. But when you
yeah.
say old school, what makes you think old school when he's talking hitting?
It's just a lot of very simple approaches to hitting. I mean that kind of get lost. It's not always a mechanical thing, and just very like what you should think going into the box. What should your approach be? Do you need to hit a ton? Like very very simple things that I think get lost with these kids, and that they need to do. So
Yeah, how are those conversations with guys? Because you're going to have, I mean, they're going to bring all kinds of stuff in with them. How do you
oh yeah.
help them kind of stay centered with what's actually going to help them hit in a game?
Yeah, it's tough because there's so much stuff out there, and these kids they'll just watch videos on Twitter or Instagram or YouTube, and they want to hit like Ronald Acuna and all this stuff. So it's tough to kind of get them away from that, and we try and just show them what we feel like will work for them, because everybody's different. Like you can't hit like Ronald Acuna or like Mike Trout. You got to do what works best for you. And we try to preach that to them, and give them things that we feel like will help them. So,
Once you get started with full team stuff now, how does that week lay out for you guys?
we typically, we practice Monday through Friday. We try and inter squad 2 or 3 times a week, just we can't play very many games in the fall. So we try and have a lot of scrimmages towards the end of the week, and towards the front of the week. I mean, we're hitting every day, doing a lot of individual defense work, just because we're only on the field for 6-7 weeks. So we want to make sure our guys are getting as much work in as we can.
When will you guys make adjustments with guys, if any? through the fall, after the fall? When will you try to make adjustments with guys if they need it?
We try and watch them and pay attention to everything first. We don't want to like change anything mechanically or anything. Just watching them for a couple weeks. I mean, we want to pay attention to them, see what they do well, see what they don't do well, and after we've watched them for a period of time, then we'll kind of step in and be like, hey, this might not work for you. You need to try this, or vice versa. So,
how are those conversations with guys?
oh, they're good as long as we've got some guys that are coachable and willing to listen. They go pretty well. So I think our guys typically respond pretty well to it.
You talked about with the different training with lifting. Is that with your position players too? Do you kick them back in the spring to 2 days a week from a lifting standpoint?
Yeah, we do. Just because they're on their feet so much and playing, we want them to be fresh and healthy, but also not lose everything they've worked for all fall in the weight room as well. So they're still lifting and working out. We just want them to be as fresh and healthy as possible too.
How are you guys instilling competition within the program? Is it just through inter squads, or are you doing any other things you feel like are good from a competition standpoint?
Yeah, we try and make them compete with everything. I mean, whether that's in the weight room or we're conditioning or maybe BP that day or in their bullpens, we try and give them different things to challenge them and make them compete against each other. I think that's great for them, and it brings the most out of our guys. We feel like the more they have to compete and challenge each other.
So like a competitive batting practice, what would that look like?
Yeah, so I mean, if we're doing something where we're holding them accountable, they might be like a BP round of situational hitting. So see how many times they can execute these situations and make them compete against each other, and just makes them focus up and on what we're doing. I think that's the biggest thing, is making sure they have some intent and focus with their work, and that makes them compete, and they like doing it.
Same thing in bullpens. They're competing against each other with bullpens.
Yeah, I mean, not all the time, but I mean, we'll have certain days where it's like, all right, you need to execute these pitches in these spots this amount of time. Make them go against each other, and it makes them focus up.
I liked horse in the bullpen. They'd play horse against each other in the bullpen just for something new.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, anything to make them compete and go at each other, I think's always good.
How are you handling scouting reports with your guys in the spring?
I mean, typically we've adopted Synergy this year, which I think is going to help us. We haven't done that in the past. But typically, I mean, we don't go off too many scouting reports. I mean, at our level, I mean, we're paying attention to what guys are doing when we're playing them. And I think a lot of it at this level, it's very easy to pick up on what this hitter's trying to do or what this guy on the mound's trying to do. Obviously, after we've seen them once or twice, we can get a better idea of it.
Great live stream option for NAIA. Early in the year, I watch more NAIA games on live stream than I do anything else. I mean, you can get a ton of information. It just seems like everybody live streams their games for NAIA.
Yeah. It seemed to get a lot better. So that's always helpful too.
For new players coming into your program, this is for coaches that are listening in, what would you like to see more out of the new players that you're getting into your program that maybe they're not getting before they get to you?
I think we get a lot of guys that they come from really good programs, but there's not really any structure involved in their practices, or they've never really lifted before, or they've never really conditioned before. And I think there are a lot of programs out there that do a great job with it. I mean, we get a lot of guys that come in prepared. They're coached really well. I think just teaching them the game is the biggest thing. They'd be surprised. Like we've had some guys that are really talented come in, but they just don't know the basic rules of the game. And I think if just knowing that goes a long way, and being taught that, I think it'll help them a lot.
When do you start addressing that stuff with them in the fall? As soon as you get them?
Yeah, right away. We feel like if they know basic things that come up in the game every day, it could be very simple things as far as if you're an outfielder, where to throw the baseball in these situations, where to move around on the field as an infielder, where to be as a catcher. Some of these things get lost and don't really get taught. And I feel like if we can do a bunch of basic things very well as a team, that'll help us win a lot of games.
How did you handle the transition going from playing to then having to coach guys that you played with?
Yeah, that was pretty tough for me. Just because a lot of them were my good buddies, and coming your first year coaching after just playing with them, they don't always will listen to you or respect you just because you're friends. You played with them. I think it got easier for me as I started to not coach guys I played with. For sure, it got a
Did
lot
you
easier
set
after
any
that.
guidelines with them? I mean, your teammates, because I had to do the same thing at
Yeah,
Evansville. I had to set guidelines with the guys that I had played with. Like, hey, I'm sorry, I
yeah,
love you guys, but we can't hang out with each other.
yeah. I definitely had to do that. That was part of our deal, and it was tough because a lot of them are my good friends,
Yeah.
and I had to separate myself, and I couldn't go out and hang out with them or go do this with them anymore, just because. I mean, it's a big difference being a coach and a player, so I had to definitely separate myself.
As you're laying your recruiting calendar out for the spring, then how much time do you miss going to watch junior college games?
I see. I'm fortunate in the location where we're at. I don't miss a lot of time away from our team just because there's so many players right and close in this area within 2 hours. So I mean, I can hop out after practice and go catch a junior college game at Polk State or somewhere at South Florida State, an hour away. So I don't miss a ton of time doing it, and I'm still able to catch all the players that I need to and that I need to see.
Did COVID adjust your guys' recruiting at all? Are you guys doing things differently now than pre-COVID?
Uh, I wouldn't say we changed anything, but I think it definitely helped us. Just because there's so many players available and everybody's rosters are so big. I mean, there's guys at the 4 year level that are having to bounce back and find somewhere else, or there's so many good JUCO players that they don't they don't have a spot at this Division 1 or this really good program. They're having to look to go to NAIs, and I think it's helped us get better players and more talented guys for sure.
Yeah, I think that it's helped every level of
Yeah,
it sucked going through that for everybody. It stunk, but
yeah,
the positive byproduct of that is that every level of college baseball now, from D1 on down to junior college, is good baseball. You see good baseball at every
yeah,
level.
yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of it too is all these guys are older now. So I mean, you had guys that were in junior college a couple of years that didn't get charged any eligibility. So I think it helps the level of play, and it's definitely better baseball all the way around.
So when with your lifting, are they lifting in the morning or are they lifting in the afternoons after you're done playing practicing?
Yeah, they're lifting in the mornings. We want them to get it out of the way in the morning, so that way they're not going in there after practice after we've already been out here for a couple hours in the sun. So
How
want
early
them
do
to
they
get it in.
go? How early? When's lifting start for you guys?
They lift at 8 a.m. 2 mornings
So
and
it's
9
not
a.m.
bad. 8 a.m., 8 or 9 is not bad. It's not like the 6
Uh,
a.m. for some schools. So they're still
uh,
able to get some rest in. 8 or 9 would be,
yeah,
if you're gonna do early morning, that would be a good time to do it.
yeah, that's not bad. We used to do it at the 5:30, 6 a.m., but
Oh,
yeah, we switched it up this year, so it's not bad at all.
what are some other things with your new guys that you try to help them with the transition to being at Weber?
Yeah, I mean, we try and just spend a lot of time with them, make sure they're comfortable. They're obviously coming from all different places and different programs, and we want our guys to get used to the way we do things here, and they catch on pretty quickly. I think we try and make them feel welcome, and this is a family here, and we want them to feel good about coming here. And obviously, for most kids, going to an NAI is not everyone's first choice, but we feel like after they come here and leave here, they have a good experience. We want them to feel that right when they get here. So,
How did you handle failure as a player?
uh, not so well all the times. I would, I would be pretty tough on myself, especially if I wasn't getting any hits for a while, or I'd want to just get back in there and work some more. But I get frustrated. I get in my head a lot. But I try, and it's much easier as a coach now to realize, I probably shouldn't have done that as a player. Or I shouldn't have reacted that way. Oh, it's good to see how how I handled it back then and translate that as a coach and help some of
Yeah,
these
how are you
kids.
helping your guys now deal with the failure part?
Yeah, I just try and preach to them. I mean, they're gonna fail. It's baseball. I mean, you're gonna have your days where you go for four with three strikeouts, and the good thing about baseball is you always have another day to bounce back, and it just takes one good game to kind of get back into the swing of things and get hot again. So
Yeah, I think the
try and
reframed a learning more than failure. You know,
yeah
it's more of a learning opportunity, and the game's trying to teach you something than
yeah
it is a failure piece of it.
yeah absolutely. You gotta have a short memory with everything. That's for sure.
Do you have a fail forward moment? Do you have something you thought was going to sidetrack you, but looking back now was one of the best things that happened to you?
Yeah, I would say. I mean, I after leaving Daytona, I mean, I played every day there. I went into Valdosta, and I didn't necessarily get the opportunity to play every day, and I struggled there. And leaving there, I mean, I thought I wasn't gonna play baseball anymore. I had 1 year left, and I called Colin, our head coach now, who was the associate coach there with Brad, and I wanted to come play back at home, and I knew if I came here, they'd have a good chance to win, and I'd get an opportunity to play more. And I did. I loved it. It was coming to Weber. I mean, was the best experience I ever had in baseball. So, and now I haven't left here coaching since. So I'd say
It's a
that would
great
be
example because you don't know if you stay at Valdosta, you don't know where you wouldn't definitely wouldn't be at
yeah
Weber. You wouldn't be at Weber right
yeah
now. There's no
yeah exactly
chance. Like I love asking
yeah
that question because it's like, okay, didn't work out there, but worked out here, and that was supposed to
yeah
be your path. Like what happened was
yeah
supposed to happen for you. You were supposed to end up
yep
at Weber. You're supposed to coach there now. You get a chance to go to the World
yeah
Series. Like all that stuff. That stuff does not happen if you stay at Valdosta.
yeah exactly. So everything happens for a reason, and you don't know that in the moment. But I mean, looking back, it's like yeah, I'm glad all that happened the way it did. So.
You have any morning routines? You're still young, so you can still work off like 3 or 4 hours of sleep or whatever because you're young. But do you have any morning or evening routines that you do that you like?
I mean, I do. I've got a 10-month-old son right now, so he
Oh,
keeps me pretty busy. I mean, he's up at 5 a.m. every morning, so I'm always hanging out with him before I go into work and in the evening. So he keeps most of my time outside of baseball.
tough timing, 10 months. So
Yeah.
you're white knuckling it during the season.
Oh yeah. He was born last November, so the spring was tough. I wasn't getting much sleep then, but we got through it. So,
What are some tips for some new parent coaches to try to get through it? Because you're on the first year, the first 12 months are really hard, but after that it
oh
does
yeah.
slow down. But what are some
Yeah,
tips
yeah.
for some coaches maybe they're going to have a kid for the first time to try to get through it?
Yeah, it is tough early on. I wasn't sure how I was going to handle the spring, but you just kind of get in a routine, find something that works for you. And after I did that, I mean, it all of it's kind of a blur now. It went by so quick. I mean, now he's fine, sleeping through the night, and it's a whole new world. But I would just say figure out a routine that works for you. I mean, you got to have a good wife too that can take some of the pressure off you, especially being in the middle of baseball season. So
What's your wife do?
she's a healthcare coordinator for it's called a place for mom for older people that need assisted living in their home. So
How did she
she
handle the spring?
it was tough for her. It was a lot came back on her. I mean, because I was getting home late at night and having to get back up in the morning and go. But she did great with it. So
What did you guys do for daycare?
so we actually have a local high school girl that watches them 3 days a week, and then my mom watches them a couple days a week too. So we're
Oh,
fortunate
you're
to
lucky
have
that yeah.
yeah, fortunate to have some help. So
That
yeah,
makes a
yeah,
huge difference. My wife and I were
yeah,
on an island when we were in Harrisonburg, Virginia, when Jackson
yeah.
was born, my son, and we were 9 hours away from anybody that we knew. So it was
Yeah,
just the two of us trying to white knuckle it through when he was born.
yeah. That makes it tough for sure.
Oh goodness
Yeah,
gracious! It's all the stuff, but that's the thing that people from the outside that haven't been through coaching, they don't realize the sacrifices that coaches and coaches' wives make to make it work, because it's not like any other industry with the amount of time that you guys have to put in for your
Yeah.
program. Like, nobody understands that from the outside looking in, how difficult that is.
Yeah, it's definitely tough. You got to have a good support system, and it's tough for sure. But I mean, if that's what you want to do and that's what you love, I mean, you gotta find a way to get through it. And it's good though. She helps me out a ton. I don't know what I'd do without her. So
What resources do you feel like helped you the most when you first got into coaching? Any books or videos or anything that you dove into that you felt like helped you when you were a young coach?
I think it is more. I was around a lot of good baseball people. I think just being around my dad, being around Colin, um, another one guy I was around, Andy Polk, who was our pitching coach here for a while, and who is the pitching coach at South Florida State. Guys that just have been doing it a while and have been around kids and have done it and had a ton of success. I think that's what helped me more than anything, is just talking to those guys and being around them, see how they handle certain situations and coaching. So
Your dad didn't try
that's
to
what
talk you out of coaching?
no.
My
Yeah.
mom and dad did.
Yeah.
They're like, you're not gonna be able to live the lifestyle that you want if you do
Yeah.
this. They sat me down. We had a long talk, the three of us. It was long. They were trying to
Yeah.
talk me out of it.
Yeah, my dad did tell me, if you're going to do it, you need to get into college, not the high school. So, which he's seen a lot in high school for almost 40 years.
What are some final thoughts, or something I should ask you that I didn't?
I think we covered it a lot. I appreciate you having me on. I'm very thankful to have gotten this award. Just want to thank you to Colin, who nominated me, all my family for support, and all our players that, I mean, wouldn't have gotten the opportunity to get it if they didn't play hard down the stretch and have a good year. So that's really it.
Maddie, thanks for jumping on with me. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good to meet our up and coming coaches. That's why the game's in such a good place, because we have so many good coaches that are just getting into this thing that are going to help carry the load for everybody else. Now it's great to kind of hand the baton off to some of the new guys, because that's why the game's in such a great place right now. So I appreciate you jumping on with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me, Ryan.